waa qiso cusub aan baro gabadhan waxaa la dhahaa Nafiah akram waa 21 jir jaamacad dhiganaysay shaqaynaysayna deganna Mareykanka kana sii degan New York.
السلام عليكم كسو دوادا هالكاني وماشي آد كلا سعوتين قصوينكا أصحابي رمضان كريم سيدي لي هاي الحمد لله waxaan idin wada caawa qiso aad u xanuun badan oo jeclaan lahaa inaa ila dhageysataan. qisadan waxay ku saabsan tahay gabar 21 sano jirta, Nafiah akram baa la dhahaa. waxay degan tahay Mareykanka, waxay kasii degan tahay gobolka la dhaho New York. waxay ahayd gabar ardayad ah, jaamacadii way ma aysan dhammayn, meel dhexe bay maraysay, wayna shaqaynaysay. gabadha caafimaadkii baranaysay, waxay kaloo baranaysay qeybta farmashiista inay noqoto. shaqo waxay ka shaqaynaysay farmashiista ah. bisha 3 March 17keeda 2021 ayaa iyadoo shaqadeeda 8 habeenimo kasoo baxaysa ayaa hooyadeed wacday. waxay tiri hooyo isoo qaad. hooyadeed baa u imaatay. hooyadeed markay u timid way soo qaaday. hooyadeed markii ay gurigooda hor yimaadeen, hooyadii waxay u carartay musqusha. gabadhii iyadoon weli aanan gaariga kasoo deginin ayaa hooyadii ka hor degatay. gabadhii way iska soo degatay. guriga albaabkiisa markay maraysay ayaa qof ordaya ka daba imaaday. qofkaasi wuxuu ahaa nin. specifically ma aysan sii sharaxinin ninka, laakiin adiga oo iska socotid oo habeenimo tahay oo gurigaaga iska sii galaysid, haddii gadaal lagaaga imaado waa naxaysaa. qofaadan filanaynin oo kula hadlinin. markii ay gadaal u jeesatay ayuu wuxuu ka hor keenay aashid buu ku shubay. isla markii gabadhii way dhacday. ambalaasaa loogu yeeray. ambalaastii baa la carartay. isbitaalkaa la geeyey. way sakaraaday. qofkii dhibaatadaasoo kale soo maray unbaa qiyaasi karaa. aaday u xuntaa wallaahi. naxdin bay leedahay. waxaa kaaga sii naxdin badan, gabadhii ilway weyday. wejigeeda inta badan wuu gubtay. qaliimo badanay martay. 6 bilood, ugu yaraan 6 bilood isbitaalkay jiiftay oo lagu hayay oo lagu daaweynayay. qalbiyan iyo weji ahaanba gabadhaasi way dhaawacantay. gabar yara oo 21 sano jirta. imagine oo maanta shaqo kaa aaday oo wax dhibaato aadan ogeyn. waxaa kaaga sii daran qofku yahay lama yaqaano. ma saaxiibbaa, ma faamilibaa, macadoo kaleetoo soo weeraray ah, lama yaqaano. ilaa haddeer 2 sano ayaa hadda u buuxsantay. bishii 3 17keedii 2021 ayaa qisadan ku dhacday. ilaa haddeer wali lama helinin. booliiska inkastoo oo aysan si fiican u baarinin oo faamiligu ay yihiin dad islaam ah, dad muslim ah. maxaa la dhihi jiray, inta badan dadka muslimka ah markii dhibaatooyin soo gaaraan sida cadaanka loogu degdego, loo baaro, luuq walba loo galo, meel walba loo galo. gabadhaani arrinkeeda waxaa moodaa in laga cagajiiday oo sidii loogu talagalay aysan maaragtay loo baarinin. laakiin dad oo dowladda ka socda oo micnihii sharci dejiyaal ah, yar madow ah ayaa haddeertaan u dooda. dad badanaa u dooda. meelo badan ay ka hadashay. waxaa wax walba kaaga daran gabadhaasi siday u qurux badnayd. gabar yara oo qurux badan oo hadda soo korayso oo caqligeedii koraayo oo mustaqbalkeedii ka horeeyo oo wejigii iyo qalbigiiba laga dhaawacay oo wixii saa u dhibaateeyna aan lahaynin. dariska ahaa xataa lama yaqaano. waxay ku nooshahay nolol naxdin ah. nolosheedu ma ahan mid macnihii dhib baa kugu dhacay hore uga sii soco maxaa la dhihi jiray maaha. dadka dhibaato way ku dhacdaa, qof walba qadarta ilaahay u haya, laakiin qalbigay ka dhaawacsan tahay sababtoo dhan naxdinay ku nooshahay. sheekadeeda meelo badanaa lasoo dhigay, waxay ku jirtaa youtube-kay ku jirtaa, facebookay ku jirtaa, instagram-kay ku jirtaa, meelo badan ay ku jirtaa sheekadeeda oo macnihii faamiligeedii oo dadka ka baryaya ina macnihii masawiradeeda la faafiyo si bal wax un macnihii dembigaasi geystay meel un dembigaas inuu ka fiidmo. laakiin waxa ay aaminsan tahay qadarta alle way aaminsan tahay maaragtay in ilaahay wuxuu kuu qadaro aadan marna seegaynin. haddana at the same time waxaa laga fakarayaa qofka dhibaatada geystay ma qof dariskeeda, ma saaxiibadeeda, ma qof oo macnihii banaanka ka imaadaya, ma qof ciil u qabaya, lama yaqaano ilaa hadeertaan. baaritaankii weli wuu socdaa. hadda maanta waxaa uu dhammaatay 2 sano, bishaan waxaa u dhammaatay 2 sano oo u buuxsantay. bishii 3aad 2023 ku jirnaa. arrintaana waxay dhacday bishii 3aad 2021. marka maxaa la dhihi jiray weli baaritaanaa socdaa. waxaa ilaahay uga baryayaa aniga iyo inta u barida ilaahayba in ilaahay u soo dedejiyo dhibaatadan gabadhan qofkii gaarsiiyey. qofna ma ogola dulmi, waxaadan sameynin in lagugu dulmiyo, laakiin qadarta waa ina aqbashaa. weli maaragtay hamigeeda aada u fiican yahay, inkastoo ay il beeshay, il dhan way dhacday, il baa dhacday. masawiradeeda intaa idiin soo saaraya wallaahi qalbadaa ku dhaqdhaqaaqaysa. aadaan macnihii uga dhibaatooday, qalbada ii dhaqdhaqaaqday. waxaana sheekadan usoo doortay oo usoo qaatay inay baraarujin noo noqoto, inaa ogaataan dumarka, weliba dumarka saaxiibada badan leh, inay dhibaato idinka soo gaari karto, inaa maxaa la dhihi jiray cadow ay isku noqon karaan, in maaragta ay isdhibaateeyaan dumarka dhexdooda, in waxyaabaha laga waantoobo. labada qof oo saaxiibka ah, labada dumarka ah, ama labada raggaaba, haddii ay dadku isfahmi waayaan inay banaanka kala maraan baa wanaagsan. qofna inaad dulmidin ma fiicno. dulmiga iyo nabsigaba wuu soo degdegaa. qofna adoon dhibaateynin, haddii dadku isfahmi waayaan banaanka in la kala maro, haddii walaaltinimadii socon weydo in banaanka la kala maro baan maaragtay baraarujin ayga tahay. baraarujin inaa dadka ku baraarujiyo inaa macnihii dhibaatooyinkan oo kaleeta adduunka ka dhacaan. maalin kasta dhibaataa dhacda, dhibaatooyin badan waa aragnaa, waa dhegeysanaa, waa maqalnaa. marka waxaa ilaahay ka baryayaa inaad noqotaan dadkii ku tusaale qaata. waxaad celinayaa sheekadan inaa idiin soo gudbiyo. waxaan jeclaan lahaa inaad kasoo falcelisaan. maxaa la dhihi jira wixii su-aalo la qabo commentiga inaa iigu soo qortaan. qofkii cusub channelka inaada subscribe-ka la dhaafinin, like-ga asaartid, commentiga hoos noogu soo jawaabtid. wasalaamu calaykum waraxmatullaahi wabarakaatu.
Hi, my name is Nafiah. Today I'm going to tell you a story about how the night of March 17, 2021 changed my life for the better. Currently, I attend Hofstra University and I'm pre-med. I was studying anatomy and physiology. Back then, I was going into my 1.5 to 2nd year of being a pharmacy tech at CVS. I ended up staying a little late. My mom usually picks me up from work, so she was waiting for me outside. I drove home and my mom said she had to use the bathroom, so she was going to go inside. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I said I was going to lock the car and grab my stuff. So I grabbed my stuff from the back. So I'm closing the door, and in my peripheral vision, I see a man standing there like this, arms crossed, creeped out. Just something about him made me feel like death was like right in front of me or something. That's like the most accurate description of what I can explain it to be, because there's no other way I can explain it. And as I'm walking down my driveway, I hear footsteps. I just felt he was really close, so I turned. I was angled and he was literally 1 foot away from me. Out of nowhere, he goes, I was like, what the F just happened? Okay, because he like ran away, and I was like, okay. I turn around. It's been 5 seconds. All of a sudden, my face starts burning. When he threw the acid, I screamed, which is what caused the acid to go down my throat. My esophagus got burnt. I have a scar in my esophagus. Thank God the ambulance got there when they did, though, because by the time I was in the bathtub, and it had only been not even 5 minutes, I told my mom that I was having trouble breathing. If they did not get there with oxygen, I would have died. The right thing to do to get like acid burn is you're really supposed to put like saline, which basically it's, or like sterile water, distilled water, something like that. That's like basically equivalent to your body's pH level. This burn was here because it was sitting and sitting and sitting, and the acid ate. Nobody saw this burn, and nobody saw this burn until I got into the ER. So the other paramedic couldn't even get an IV in because he was trying to start a morphine drip. So he couldn't get an IV in. So then he was like, you know what, forget that. He was like, I'm sorry, this is going to burn. I can't get the morphine in. But if I don't do this and I try to fuss with your vein, your face is just going to burn more. So I'm going to have to do this. So he poured the saline on me, like on my face continuously a couple times. And it was just, it hurt so bad. It was like I was fainting and like I was blacking out. There were the burn doctors who were fighting to intubate me because they know that like if my esophagus got burned, it could close up my airway, which is what was happening. But the trauma doctor said if my esophagus got burnt, it would be worse if you put a plastic tube down. So then it was like, what do I do? Because they were giving me the option. And then my mother, who's an NP, comes in the room crying hysterically. And I'm just like, I can't do this. Like, I don't know what to do. On top of all of that, my contact was stuck to my eye. And the eye doctor literally had to take a tweezer, which they call a forceps, pick out my contact before they could wash off the acid. And then when he got my contact out, I realized that the light in the right hand side of my eye looked yellow, and the ceiling lights on the left hand side looked white. Right away, I'm like, how bad is it? He was like, could you feel it? And I was like, yeah. He was like, because he was in my eye. He was like, could you feel this? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, then it's not as bad as we thought it would be. And I was like, okay, so how bad is it though? And then he said 2nd to 3rd degree. So I was in the hospital for about 3 weeks. I was allowed to shower, but it was like really weird for me because my face felt so dry all the time and hard. It was like, and then at the same time, they wanted me to scrub the burnt area out to get the dead skin out. I would say mentally, I was very confused. Back home, we know that like these kinds of things only happen when like you reject a man. So we were just like thinking this could either be an ex-boyfriend of mine or like maybe a friend of mine that was jealous. So then when it comes down to like friends, who do I call, right? It's like, who do I confide in? That was my biggest thing. While I was in the hospital, I got really close to my dad. Like we would spend nights walking around when I couldn't sleep. Watching Blacklist with my dad became our thing, and it became a really good coping mechanism to avoid thinking about my problems. Like I said, we love to avoid. But then I ended up having a therapist that wanted me to, do the complete opposite, face your fears. I also think that whoever did this to me wanted me to live in fear. So I refused to let them get the W because that's what they want. I'm not going to give it to you. The first thing I did, I kid you not, they wanted me to go through the front door. And the first time I saw it, I just cried. And then my dad was like, no, we're not going to cry. We fight. We're fighters. I also lost a lot of the insulation and the fatty tissue that filters out the cold. The scarring process was terrible. And I came across a doctor, a facial cosmetic surgeon. He actually ended up giving me a lot of advice and a lot of encouragement, and told me about like this thing called tissue expanded, which is when they put an implant in your body. That's beneficial because that's where they get the skin from in order to graft it on my face, as opposed to taking it from all over my body. The scarring happened so quickly that like my nose and the top lip attached to each other. And that's why I had to have surgery around my mouth to remove the connection, because they were afraid my gum was going to go into sepsis. I have to say a major thing for me was the supporters, like the GoFundMe. Like I met people through GoFundMe. I like read a lot of encouraging things that people said to me. I prayed a lot. Like even when this happened the night of, I was literally reading something for protection. My spirituality and my connection with God is so strong. It's not easy, but I rather deal with living like this, because there's a lot of people that don't have the opportunity and have to stay scarred and in so much pain. Some people back home like don't even have the education to, you know, take their kids to the hospital, or, you know, some people don't make it. Like I used to sit here, I was going through a lot of grief this year, and I used to sit here and feel sorry for myself, and I'd be like, you know, why do I have to go through this? Then I got tired of being angry, and I stopped complaining, and then just started to look at the positive. Like I woke up today, thank you. Like I can see with one eye. I could have been like fully blind, you know? Like I can talk. We complain so much more than we're grateful. Like there was a time I caught myself complaining about something. I don't remember what it was. And then I humbled myself. I was like, you know, Nafiah, stop complaining. Like there was a point in time where you couldn't even eat. Everybody asks me how I go through it. And sometimes I look at myself in the mirror, like even now, I look at myself in the mirror and I don't even sometimes believe that this is what it looks like. And I'm actually living through this. Like I don't know how I do it. But I really hope that I can take my story with me and like help motivate other people and inspire other people. The reason I wanted to share it with you is to keep it going, because I think that it's very important for people to know the severity of what these people did, yes, but it's not just about me. It's about finding them to make sure they don't do it to other people. My therapist actually asked me that question. She asked me, she was like, what if these people are never found? My parents and I were even saying like, you know, I'll be able to go out when they get caught. Like it was literally, I was living my life based on when these people get caught, I'm going to do this. You know, like that's crazy. No. So back to what I was saying about not losing. I decided to start, you know, walking around the block or like walking around the neighborhood. For anyone who has been through anything traumatic whatsoever, my piece of advice is to love yourself regardless, no matter what. You have to love yourself unconditionally. You're not going to be able to love other people if you don't know how to love yourself first. That life that I had was no longer there because I was constantly reminiscing on it. Like I would sit there and be like, oh, I used to do this, I used to do that. And instead, I started just focusing on what I'm going to do going forward and looking forward instead of looking at the past, because I feel like I could be much more than just a doctor. I could like do so many different things. My best friend sent me information about this girl that got attacked on the subway of recent. I think it was last week, Friday, and it was in the news. And she was 21 years old, just like me, a healthcare worker, just like me, coming home from the hospital. That kind of made me feel like this is why I survived. You know, like that's what my purpose is, to share my story and to help other people and to show them that like life isn't over, you know? Like one thing I really want to do is I really hope to get in touch with that girl. Because wouldn't it be amazing if I walk in the room and she sees me and I can just be like, look at me, so she doesn't feel bad? Like that would be the most heartfelt thing I could ever do for somebody. I looked up the purpose of why people do this and the psychosis of it, they want you to have scars for the rest of your life so that you remember. So like even though I might not have this scar that's light, or I might not be able to, see the scars, I still have scars here on my shoulder. I have scars on my thighs that will tie into memories of detrimental like pain and horror for me and trauma for the rest of my life. And that's what they want. You could either smile because it's a good day or complain and make it a bad day. And it's true.